Welcome, one and all, back to the Hurdle Podcast. Unbelievable. If you knew what just happened, yeah.
You won't.
You won't. That's the best part. We're going to talk some college football, specifically some MSU, recap of the Stetson game, preview of the matchup between Weber State, which is going to be a big game in the Big Sky. It's gonna be a fun one.
Yep.
I'm very excited to be able to go down to that. It kind of just lined up perfectly for when I was going home, and I figured, what better to do on a Saturday night than go cheer on the Cats?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, and in a great game, great matchup. It's
Enemy territory.
Exactly. I've only done that one other time, and it did not turn out well for us. So I'm hoping for a little bit of reverse psychology.
Reverse
here.
curse.
Yeah, exactly. We'll kind of recap some of the college games from last week, specifically the Rocky Mountain Rumble between Colorado and Colorado State. That was an intriguing matchup and very fun to watch at 1:30 in the morning. But no, very fun game there. And then we'll kind of just preview some of the ranked games this week. There's 6 games where there's ranked opponents playing in it against each other. First time since 2005. So it's going to be a great weekend of college football leading into the week of the NFL. So we'll kind of just get into it. Cats beat Stetson 57-20. You saw starters for the first half.
Yep. Basically what we expected.
Yeah, pretty much what we said last week.
No Tommy, Sean playing the first. Figure it out after that.
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty much after that. Let's just figure out and see what we got. A lot of throwing from Sean early. They kind of dialed that back in the second quarter, but I did like seeing the amount of pass attempts we were getting early. They were moving the ball. How many?
30 for the
game
game
as a whole. You don't see that with Cats football usually.
Normally we're never near 50-50. 36 team carries.
Yeah.
30 passing attempts. It's normally 75-25 run.
Yeah, so it was a good balance. I think it was a good showing of what this offense can be balance-wise.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't perfect by any means, but, I mean, you're not going to complain with a 37-point win.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie, I left at halftime of this game, or halfway through the third.
Yeah.
Just because there's no starters out. But, yeah, I think the Cats looked fine. I think this is a good tune-up week, kind of like we mentioned, like 2 to 3 days. Yeah, 2 to 3 days. Let's plan for Stetson, and then after that, it's Weber week, and that's kind of what we thought Weber would do as they lost to Utah 31-7.
Yep.
It's kind of a let's prep for Utah, and then let's focus on Montana State.
Yeah, I mean there was very little takeaway from this game. Juice Davis had a dope hurdle, but I didn't learn anything from this game that we didn't know already. We figured we'd throw it a little more against a team that's not very good. Stetson had a lot of traveling issues, which I'm sure did not help them as well.
Yeah, they did not get into Bozeman until about 3:30 a.m.
Yeah,
with the time change, with the altitude.
Yeah. So they had a rough traveling schedule. Nothing really lined up in their favor. But nothing new. Sean played the first half. We expected Tommy to not play, rest the ankle. And we dominated this game throughout. Defense still looks very on point. Yeah, that's really about it. I mean, we had a fumble, but no mistakes were going to hurt us in this game. We forced a ton of turnovers, had a lot of great field position, dominated about every aspect that you could think of.
Yeah, exactly. In our one turnover, we gained 35 yards, and then the dude fumbled it.
Mm-hmm.
Did not matter.
Yeah,
really didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I think we can stop walking around it. Montana State, Weber State this week, and the 2 years we've been here, those have been some of the better games. Our freshman year on the road in Weber, it was a 3-point game.
Yep,
Cats come out with a win, and then last year we got them twice. The regular season game with the 5 missed snaps on special teams.
Yeah, 4 safeties.
And then the playoff game, which was also a classic. Montana State was up big, and then Weber clawed right on back. It made it a game at the end, but
2-point game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a one score game for sure. These matchups are always close, so it's always super hard to tell, especially with the Big Sky opener, because like Montana State's been just kind of like tuning up.
Yeah.
Other than the South Dakota State game, obviously, but you could say the same thing for Weber, tuning up outside the Utah game. So really, both teams are going to come into this with, I think, good game plans. I think it could be a fairly low scoring game. I think it could be really heavy defensively. And the big thing for Montana State is no Tommy Malott this week. Again, Sean Chambers will be starting. So that kind of throws a wrinkle into our offense. But I think with both quarterbacks, it's kind of like you can plug and play them and usually get about the same result.
Yeah. This is going to be a very interesting game. Weber lost I was kind of going through, looking back through a couple of their older games. Weaver lost a huge key piece in Ty McPherson, not on the squad anymore, and he was their go-to get it guy last year. Every third down in both the matchups went to McPherson. I believe he had over 80 to 100 plus yards in both those games. Was the sole reason their offense could move the chains,
Yeah.
and he's not there anymore. So now Weaver's kind of like switched the identity of their entire offense. They're a little more run heavy this year, and much more defensively based, which I think plays into our strengths. They're trying to play the game that we like to play, which I think in turn, there's almost always tough games, but I think it's going to play a little more to our favor this year with that twist this year.
Exactly. And you're not going to see our defense, I think, struggle as much in the pass game, specifically against Weber, with that more run style offense. But I would say our secondaries looked great through the first 3 weeks.
We were not saying that last year.
Yeah, and that's not what we were saying last year. And that's super encouraging.
Yep.
I think our receivers have really kind of shined with those go up and get it balls because they're a lot of bigger guys. We don't have as much speed receiver wise with the loss of Willie Patterson.
A little heavier, yeah.
But I think with the combination of big threats on the outside and with this whole running back by committee and kind of quarterback by committee deal, I think Montana State's probably one of the harder teams to scheme for, honestly, in the Big Sky.
Yeah, and coming off an easy tune-up week, I would assume we've had 10 days, honestly, to prep for Weaver. I don't know if Weaver's had as much time because they had to prep for 12 Utah, which I don't know how much weight they put into that game. I'm sure it's more than the weight we put into Stetson. So with Weaver trying to have it change up their scheme, they're still going to be very balanced. They're still going to throw the ball. They got 66 pass attempts from their starting QB through 3 games, which is way more than what we got. I mean, we maybe have 66 pass attempts on the whole year.
Yeah, I was going to say combined probably.
So I mean, Sean only has 24. So they're still going to be a little more balanced than we are, which is fully expected. No team's 80-20 run pass like we are. Really in the Big Sky, in the entire FCS.
Yeah.
So the only other teams you really see play the style that we do is like Army, Navy, Air Force teams that run the triple option, all that kind of jazz, wing T. But yeah, this Weaver game is gonna be really, really weird. I think. I think it'll be really low scoring first half, and I think second half Montana State's gonna make some adjustments that Weaver just doesn't have the ability to make. I think we're definitely the more talented roster. We're definitely the more experienced roster.
Way better on paper.
And what we weren't saying about the secondary last year was that they were really locked down. Because last year we were giving up big plays, and it was actually really worrying. We gave up a lot of deep shots last year, and this year that's just not happening. You could look at the Northern Arizona game last year, and it was a travesty. We were just giving up just massive touchdowns left and right. And Weber also did that and took advantage. And even the 4 safety game we had against Weber, we only won that game by single digits, and they spotted us 8 points.
Yeah.
The second game, the playoff game, both in Montana State last year, they had a really fierce comeback.
I was gonna say, and I think that second game really shows more of what that Weber team was last year.
Yeah.
Just because of they did spot us about 8 points, and like realistically, probably only won that game by 2 points outside of those mistakes. So I think it might just come down to that again. I think it's whatever team makes the fewest mistakes, rather that's offensively or special teams, and like what defense can limit the big plays. I think Montana State has that big play potential, and our defense has shown they can stop the big play.
Yeah.
Outside of the 2 plays against South Dakota State, they've really shut down every big play opportunity.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at Weber's kind of thing, like Northern Iowa put up points on them. Mm-hmm. Utah obviously put up points on them.
Of course.
And I can't remember their third game, Central Washington. Yeah. And we were watching that game, and it was tied at 10, and we're like, what? Like the game was really close. So I think there's ability for Montana State to get big plays. It's just a matter of how is it going to be exploited? Is it going to be big run, or is it going to be a Sean Chambers 60-yard touchdown pass to a receiver kind of deal?
Yeah, I think with no Malott, our offense becomes entirely more predictable. I think that's going to be a huge loss in this game. Having Tommy on the field doesn't allow us as much versatility offensively, which is something that this offense desperately needs. Because we're a little more 65-35 with Tommy, and with Sean we're a little more 80-20, as I said earlier. And we're going to be running a freaking crap ton of QB power, QB draw, heavy sets, pushing up front. That's just how we run. So Expect all that. Expect 4 straight QB draws to get a first down in the red zone every time we touch them there. And expect our defense to show up. I do like Montana State by 10, especially since no McPherson this year. I think that's huge. I think he was probably the best receiver in the Big Sky last year, outside of um, maybe the kid on Eastern, or maybe the kid on Sac State, or Willie. So McPherson was killing us when we went zone coverage. They shredded our zone last year, and now that that's stripped away from the offense, much like South Dakota State losing Kraft, they don't have their go-to third down guy. I think that's so important to an offense. Those chain movers, and Weber State's lost their guy. I think we win this game by double digits.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go a little more conservative just because I do think it will be a close game. I don't think it'll be as close as a field goal, but I think about a touchdown is where I see this. I think whatever team has the ball last will have a chance to win it.
Yep.
And kind of just be like if they capitalize on that. But I do like the Cats odds. I just think we're the better team. Well, overall, I think we've played. I think we've played better competition FCS level wise.
And we got the same record.
Exactly. And we have the same record. Like, you kind of punt the Utah game. You don't expect much out of the Utah game. It's like, all games we played, it's like, all
winnable games.
All winnable games. The loss was really close, so that makes me feel good.
Definitely a game we should have won.
Exactly. But I think the Cats take this one by a touchdown, I would say.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I'm really excited to go down to this game. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah.
If any of these Weber State games have been a taste of what I'm going to get on Saturday, I think it's going to be a great game.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we go bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little still FCS and then FBS.
Yep.
The game we a little highlighted and it'll be close.
Mm-hmm.
Actually upset.
Yeah, a lot closer than I was expecting.
Sac State upsets Stanford by 7.
Yep.
On a game-winning drive to end it.
49-yard touchdown pass with 1:32 left.
I'm shocked.
Me too.
We dog Sacramento State on this particular program.
It's not too bad.
We don't think they're as good as their record always says.
Yes.
That's a statement win. I don't care who you are. Stanford still gets great commits out of the state of California, outside of USC and UCLA. And there are a lot of smart guys on that team. No pun intended. It's Stanford. But, like, there's been so much talent that's come out of that program.
And they have Sac State's old head coach.
And they have Sac State's old coach who just didn't game plan well for his old team, honestly.
Resting on his laurels right now a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm going to go to the bigger job, make more money. And then his former program comes almost $700K in wins.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting. I think, it's Stanford. Stanford is not a great Pac-12 team. However, for an FCS team to beat a Pac-12, huge. Because you saw what the other FCS and Big 12 game, Pac-12 looked like last week.
Yeah, or
and it was Utah.
Us against Oregon State, and then the Utah Weber game this week. Pac-12 slaughters us. Granted, this is a much lower grade Pac-12 team than an Oregon State last year or a Utah this year, because those schools are both ranked.
Yeah.
In those games, but a win is a win, especially against a Power 5 school.
Yeah, they looked impressive. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't scare me yet. I am interested. I'm interested to see how they do in the first couple weeks of Big Sky play, before they play us. But it's definitely a statement win, because that's a win that we don't have. It's not a win Weber will have.
Yep.
And it's not a win the Dakotas are gonna have. So it's definitely a statement win in the FCS for sure.
I think one thing that's really big is they beat a Power 5 school and they made mistakes.
Yeah.
Quarterback had 2 picks. But they're outside of that, 13 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. He's a dual threat machine. Caden Bennett is. He's disgusting. And 448 total yards of offense. Winning time of possession. They made mistakes, but they made up for it in so many other facets. You look at this, the second half, Stanford didn't even score a touchdown. They got held to a 41-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal, 39-yard field goal. So you look at what they were doing defensively, and I think that was actually the big takeaway. Yes, their quarterback is an elite dual threat option, and we saw Sac State last year put up points with the best of them in that Incarnate Word game that they didn't actually lose. They put up 58 some points in that game. We know that they can put the ball in the end zone, but defensively is what I was not expecting in this game.
Yeah,
And
held Stanford 23.
yeah, they holding them to 9 points in the second half, 23 total throughout the game. It's remarkably impressive, and for them to do that against a much more balanced scheme than ours is, has me scratching my head a little bit. When we play them in mid-October.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a convincing win. It's definitely a big win for that particular program.
I'm really gonna keep my set. And you look at their games.
They
Play
got Idaho.
which is a big game.
Yep.
Idaho just played Cal and only lost by 2 scores.
Yep. And Idaho beat Nevada.
Yep, Idaho beat Nevada. Northern Arizona's trash this year. Northern Colorado's trash this year. And then they draw us. So they got 2 really easy division games, and then so they're gonna be honestly probably riding pretty high. The Idaho game is definitely one to watch this weekend, to see how they ride that Stanford win. And if they're riding it to 4-0, they're gonna dog Northern Arizona, dog Northern Colorado, and they're gonna be riding red hot coming into our game.
Yeah, it's definitely a game we still have circled on our calendar just because we've wanted this for 2 years, and this might be one of the better times Sac State's looked
Yeah.
of late. So definitely something to keep our eye on.
Yep.
And then the other kind of big game from last week we want to highlight is obviously the Rocky Mountain Rumble.
Yep.
All the talk, all the smack,
Mm-hmm.
everything that we wanted, and it was purely entertainment for
It
the
was.
first quarter and a half,
It was.
and then overtime. But
Third quarter kind of bleak.
yeah, third quarter, me and Wyatt went and got some Taco Bell slushies just because we knew how that third quarter was going to be coming out of the half, and it delivered on that. It was a sluggish Colorado coming out, and Colorado State still looking on point.
Mm-hmm.
And then Colorado coming back for the win in, I don't want to say Coach Prime fashion, but they kind of just shut out all the haters with that comeback. They win 43 to 35.
Yep.
8-point game. Shador Sanders played insane. Both Sanders really did. Shiloh with the pick 6 to really get Colorado going. Yeah. And then the big obvious one is the Travis Hunter hit.
How's that dude not suspended?
I don't
How's it not targeting?
I don't get how it's not targeting because like you look later in the game, and one guy I wasn't aware of is this dude Kamara for Colorado State.
Yeah.
Absolute
Muhammad.
dog. Muhammad Kamara
Yeah.
is a dog. I think he had 3 sacks in this game. He was dressing Shador all game. And
2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss.
exactly. He was all over Shador.
By far and away their best defensive player.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then of course he gets thrown out in over the first overtime. This went double overtime, my apologies. The first overtime for targeting, which wasn't targeting, but
Call. Had 2 stupid penalties.
Yeah.
Double, right? And double overtime.
I think the big takeaway is how many penalties.
Colorado State had like 185 yards in penalties.
And it's just like that's not
like
winning
Dallas
football.
Cowboy playoff crap.
I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up, but yes, it looked like Dallas against San Francisco 2 years ago.
Like 100, like if you have triple digit, they had 120 penalty yards at halftime.
Yeah.
And they were still winning. But that was a massive problem for them in this game. They could not draw a flag.
And it's stupid flags too. It's the late hits. It's the
Yeah.
targetings. It's the roughing.
Because they should have won this game.
Oh, 100%. And then their receiver, oh God. Horton?
Yeah.
Dude.
Nasty.
Colorado State has some dogs, and
They
we
showed up to play.
were dogging them in this. Like honestly, we were like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
28.
Colorado was 30 point favorites damn near.
We were like, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna ride Coach Prime, and they exposed Colorado. I'm just gonna say it. I think they drew up the game plan on how to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to these Pac-12 schools to kind of duplicate that.
Yeah.
They have Oregon this week, which we'll get into. They have USC right after that.
Yep.
And then Utah to finish the year with, I think, like a UCLA sprinkled in there.
Yep.
And an Oregon State. So it's like
5 ranked teams there.
Yeah, that's just a tough stretch, man. Like, again, I think I don't want to say it felt like Colorado was going to win this the whole time, but like it just felt like they were going to come back. They made all the right plays at the right times, and they come out the win. It's going to be interesting to see how they do without Travis Hunter for 3 weeks.
That's gonna hurt.
When he's your best corner and best receiving threat, that's kind of what the risk you run with playing on both sides is if he does ever have to go down or has to rest, you're losing your best defensive player and probably your
Yeah.
best offensive weapon outside your quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, Colorado made both. This was a really, really, really sloppy game. The
Both
first
teams
quarter
played, yeah.
was an absolute crapshoot. I mean, it was fun to watch,
It was entertaining.
but it was really, really sloppy football. Dion addressed it, and Norvell didn't, and that's kind of I think Dion kind of outcoached Norvell in this game. Um, his team, he never forced his team to have composure playing football, and they kind of lost sight of their fundamentals, and that's where Colorado, you kind of saw the shift kind of take over in the fourth quarter there, and Colorado just kept playing great football. I am super super impressed with Shadur. I know Colorado State's not a good team.
That 96-yard drive to end it.
The 96
send it to overtime.
I'm just talking like visually the intangibles, his pocket presence is NFL ready, I would say. And I am he knows when to run, knows when to throw. I'm incredibly impressed with his decision making. I was blown away with how he played in this game. I thought he was terrific. Absolutely, this is the first time I've really gotten to watch him play, and we're going to see him play a bunch of ranked competition here in the next couple weeks, which is going to be really, really interesting to see. But if I'm just taking away from this game, the full game, I watched the whole thing. I think he's got top 10 pick written all over him. I thought he was absolutely terrific. And he's super balanced. He doesn't force feed anyone. He's not
Yeah, they
he's
spread
not
it out.
hunting reads for one guy all over the field. They mix it up, and I feel like he mixes his decision making up, which makes him really unpredictable.
I was gonna say he's probably the most unpredictable quarterback in college football.
Which is a huge plus. Like we look at the quarterbacks over the past few years, Bryce Young, Mac Jones, they're throwing to Waddle Smith, guys that are gonna get 15, 16 targets a week. And like McCord this year for Ohio State, he's throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yep.
13 to 15 times a game. Colorado doesn't really have that. They have really nice balance. I love how they spread the ball out. Their run game leaves something to be desired, but
we saw that the first 2 weeks. The run game
Yeah.
is there. You just didn't see as much in this game because they were down.
yeah, they were down. Yeah, they were down for most of the game. So, really sloppy game, but really entertaining to watch.
One of the funner games I've ever watched.
Really impressed by the mental durability of this Colorado team, losing Travis Hunter, your second best receiver and your best corner, and a top 10 player in college football. To be able to lose him, fight back through all the penalties, through all the BS in this game that happened, and come out with a win in double overtime, I think is impressive. Granted, I do think Colorado State exposed a lot of things that much better teams than them are going to use to their advantage. Like you said, USC, Oregon, especially USC, Utah, UCLA. They're gonna push them harder than Colorado State is going to, just with the sheer talent that they have on the field. And not that Colorado State has a bad team. I mean, their receiving core is disgusting, and actually their freshman quarterback, he threw 3 picks, but I was actually impressed with how he played. They had 4 guys even catch the ball, 3 receivers over 100 yards. Like they had their top 3 guys, and that was it. So he's having to force feed guys relentlessly. I mean, Horton had like 18 targets. So and I believe Brown LaForth went down earlier in the game, so he just had to end up force feeding him over and over and over again on drags, and it was unstoppable.
Because no one
I
could
don't know
cover
why
him in space.
Colorado couldn't stop that, and Colorado really never adjusted. So I think the lack of adjustments from Colorado is something that was really worrying in this game, and something that you're really gonna have to keep your eye on into the Oregon and USC matchups.
Yeah, definitely. I do think the one thing I do want to kind of touch on, I think Colorado's play calling was great in this game offensively.
Mhm.
I think the plays were there to be made, and you saw that especially in overtime when they had to do the 2-point conversion.
All the plays worked.
Like everything worked. The reads to the little dump out to the tight
fake
end.
wheel play.
Yeah, like the play calling and the play design was spectacular for Colorado.
Mhm.
It was a little slow in the first half, kind of picked up there in the third and really showed itself in the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna be very interesting, like you said. I think when they play these Oregons, the USCs, the Utahs, I think it's gonna be interesting to see where this team is, especially with two of those games coming with no Travis Hunter. I think that's a big
Yeah,
loss for them, and I want to see how they adjust. Oregon's favored by a lot, like
21.
21. That's a lot.
Mhm.
But it wouldn't shock me if it happens just because of what Oregon is.
Mhm.
And it'll be the first time Prime plays and this team plays a Pac-12 school.
A legit,
Like
legit
a
squad.
legit squad in the Pac-12 in a place that you know is going to be bumping because of all the hype behind this game.
Yep.
So I think
It's gonna be
I
crazy.
think this Oregon game will be a good showing of what I think we can expect for Colorado the rest of the year. Not saying 3-0 start's not impressive. I just think once they get into these more Pac-12 schools, it might not be as pretty or as
Nine,
clean
the
cut.
3-0 start is absolutely impressive. I mean, we didn't know what we were gonna get out of TCU, but they walk out of there with a huge win, and they've kind of rode the momentum since. And I forget who their second game is.
Nebraska.
Nebraska, that's right. You go against an NFL coach team, Matt Rule. Granted, that program's in a really dreadful spot right now, even with Matt Rule as their head coach. Um, and then winning your state rivalry game. Those are three big games. So, um, but I think Oregon is on a different level than any of those teams that they've played, just because TCU hasn't really proven much of anything since the Colorado game. They've kind of they're
They've been there.
yeah, they're gonna be flying. They aren't gonna be on anyone's radar for the rest of the year. And Oregon definitely will be. They're gonna have a Heisman candidate hopeful in Bo Nix. They're coached by Dan Lanning, who's one of the more aggressive head coaches in the league,
Yep.
or in the league, in the nation. Sorry, we just came off recording our NFL podcast, but and Oregon's just always stacked. It's year to year to year. Their program always thrives. They're a perennial powerhouse in the Pac-12. They've been doing it, God, for as long as I can remember.
I was
Since
gonna say,
LaMichael James,
I was gonna say since we were kids, it's always
yeah,
been Oregon.
since 2004, probably somewhere in there. Um, Ever since I can remember, Oregon's been a legit top five team. So, um,
And they've had the quarterback play to back it up.
yeah, they've had the quarterback play, they've had the running backs. You've seen the star talent. Kayvon Thibodeau last year, um,
Few
a few
years
years
ago.
ago, getting drafted. So, um, Oregon is. It's going to be a really tough test. I think Oregon wins this game, fairly handedly. But I think the one thing to watch out is, can Colorado adjust, and how is Shedeur going to play against the legit defense? Because Oregon has one.
Exactly. They're one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 this year. Probably outside of it, Utah. So yeah, I totally agree. I think they could keep it close. I think the 21 is aggressive,
Yeah.
but I could also see this game getting out of hand early and
Especially
Colorado
if they
not
played how they did in
adjusting.
the first half.
Exactly. Like they could go into the half down 21 and it'd be like, okay,
Mhm.
how are they going to adjust? And they maybe won't adjust and it stays right about the same.
Yeah, and you can't have scoreless quarters against Colorado State and then come out and have scoreless quarters against Oregon.
That's just not a winning
That's a
recipe.
that's a recipe for disaster, especially when you're on the road and Eugene's gonna be going crazy. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a really, really, really tough game for Colorado to win.
The only
One they
game
most
I'm
likely
definitely
won't,
going to watch.
but one that's definitely gonna be on the radar. I'm super interested to see how Shedeur plays.
Yeah, I think this is the big first test, so we'll see
Yep.
how it goes. Couple other games we want to highlight. Ole Miss, Bama looking sketchy, and Ole Miss
They
looking
played like
okay.
garbage in that USF game.
Yeah, the USF game was not a fun one to watch. I don't know what they're doing at quarterback right now. I think this is the fourth time.
Moreau started.
Yeah, but I just mean in general. It's like
Mhm.
why not
Oh,
just
yeah.
why not just stick with him if you were just gonna go right back to him?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Like it's just weird to me. I think losing Bill O'Brien
It's hurting.
is hurting a lot right now for Bama.
And Bryce Young, of course.
Well, yeah. But it just seems like the last few years we've watched Bama, or at least as long as I can remember, they've always had constant quarterback play. And it's always been good quarterback play. Not the case right now. And I think they're going into this game against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and they're very vulnerable. I think we could get to the point where a 2-2 Bama is not out of the question, with Ole Miss being, what, 4-0 if they win this game?
Yeah. You see Ole Miss vault into the top 8 and Bama fall down into 20 ranges,
Which
maybe even out of the top 25, which I don't know if has ever happened in our lifetime.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen Bama not ranked.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's looking like it's getting to that point because their schedule does not get any easier from here.
No, and they're still gonna have to play Georgia at some point. Um, which they're gonna get slaughtered in that game. I totally agree with you on the Milrose situation. I don't know why you don't play him against USF because I don't think he
That's a
played
confidence booster.
exactly. I don't understand, and it's not me criticizing literally the greatest college football coach in the history of college football, but
But go on.
I don't understand having this quarterback situation. I understand why you test out other guys in USF as an opponent that you feel like you're able to do so. But with the way he played the Texas game, even though they lost, I did not feel like he cost them that game. And you walk into USF and you should pound that team by 40. And I think they do if he starts. I think he's actually much better than both the guys we watched against USF because that game shouldn't have been close. Bama needs to win those games by 40. And that's kind of how we've grown up. We've grown up with AJ McCarron and Mac Jones and Bryce Young
And Tua.
and Tua and Jalen Hurts. And these guys, they
dominate the bad teams.
They slaughter unranked opponents. And for the game to draw in a way where it had a legit chance where if USF got any form of offense going, they win that game. And of course they couldn't because Bama's defense is legit. I just don't understand not starting Jalen Milroe in that spot. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't understand why you don't want to ride the momentum, especially when you play Ole Miss the week after. You want him coming in with some sort of confidence and insurance that you know that he's gonna at least give his all or play well in that game, especially if he plays well in the USF game and you didn't even play him one snap of that game. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that game was a big way to build a confidence booster going into SEC
It's a
play.
missed opportunity.
And I think it'll cost them this week. I really like what Ole Miss has going on right now.
Really.
I loved watching them play Tulane. That was such a fun game to watch. I think Ole Miss will go into Tuscaloosa and upset. I really do. I think the quarterback play will be spotty. For Bama, I think Milroe's just going to have no confidence going into this game. I just don't think that was a smart move last week. But it's Bama. Their defense is so good. They are always so good, and they could take advantage of Jackson Dart. I just don't see.
Jackson Dart's a great quarterback.
I think Jackson Dart and Ole Miss's offense is great.
He's NFL. He's not high level NFL talent, but he is NFL talent.
I think it'll be fun to see the matchup of the defense and offense
Yep.
between the offensive Ole Miss and the defensive Bama. Because I think if you look on the flip side of that, I don't love Bama's offense right now, and I don't love Ole Miss's defense.
Yeah, I think this is really. I'm still gonna take Bama here. I'm gonna bet Saban against any of his former coaches, even Sarkisian. Granted, Texas has actually probably the more talented roster this year, but even though Kiffin runs one of the more complex offenses in in all of FBS football, I'm just still gonna bet. I like the saying, never bet it against Belichick. When Brady was there, I'm never betting against Saban, but now that there's no Brady there for Alabama, you could see this game lean towards Ole Miss's way. But you're playing against 100,000 people in Tuscaloosa. It's a really tough environment to go into and win. But we watched Texas do it. It's definitely possible. It's going to be a game that's going to be on my television Saturday afternoon. And I will definitely be keeping a close eye on it, especially how Milroe plays. But I liked how he played against Texas. I think Texas has a much better defense than Ole Miss. And with how Alabama's defense had to clutch up and hold firm in the last game, I think they can do that against the Kiffin offense. Maybe just not as good or as potent as a Sarkisian offense when Quinn Ewers is running that offense instead of Jackson Dart.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. And then the last big one we want to highlight,
Ohio State.
game day's going, yeah, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think this is an interesting matchup because I don't think Ohio State is, I think, where they could be.
Yeah.
And of course, the game they open up with, where it's like, all right, now we're going to see it, is against the Notre Dame defense that's very good. And the Notre Dame offense that finally has a quarterback who can throw the ball well.
Marcus Freeman's still coaching, right?
Yep. I don't like them going into Ohio State, really. I mean into Notre Dame, sorry.
Yeah.
Into Indy there.
In Indiana.
Yeah, South Bend is just a different.
Southbound's it.
South Bend is just a different animal. With those games, I still think I'll ride Ohio State, just because I think they have the best receiving threat in the country, and I don't know who's really going to stop that. But you gotta give him the ball.
Yeah.
Like he's looked non-existent these last couple weeks, and I think this is either the week he's going to break out, or this is where Ohio State starts to crash and burn.
Yeah, this is MHJ's Heisman candidacy on the line here, I think.
Yep.
Granted, he's still gonna get the Michigan game. He could go berserk in any of these games towards the second half of the year and really push that Heisman, but the Heisman's a quarterback award. Basically, that's what it's been for the past, I don't know how many years now.
Outside Devontae Smith.
Yeah, outside Devonta Smith, it's hard to draw anything else. Ndamukong Suh, that was in like 2005, so if we're gonna go into MHJ Heisman candidacy, this is the game he's gonna have to do it. I've been super impressed with ND so far. Sam Hartman has no turnovers on the year, 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. Granted, they played 4 games, one more than basically every other school so far besides USC.
Mhm.
They look really good though, and this is the first year in a really long, probably. I don't even know if those Manti Te'o teams had good offenses.
No.
Those were just Manti Te'o and that defense being
Yeah.
legit. And this ND team, I think, is actually the best team they've rostered in a long time. The transfer portal has helped them out tremendously. Bringing in Sam Hartman has
That's
leveled
huge.
this offense into something spectacular, I think. And this is a game you could see Ohio State go down easily.
Yep.
In Indiana, I'm actually probably gonna pick ND in this game, which is I'm normally an Ohio State truther, even though I don't like Ohio State. I just love the way their offenses are ran, and they normally have talent that
And they
kicks
do,
any team's
but-
ass. Any team except for Georgia, basically the last 2 years. If you remove Georgia, Ohio State's probably winning the national championship last year and probably the year before that. Just with the talent they had, but they don't have a solid quarterback this year. It's really going to hurt them, I think, in this game. And he's still the heart of this team is still defensively in Notre Dame.
It always will be.
And I think the fact that their offense, granted, they haven't played insane competition so far, but the fact that their offense has taken such exponential jumps just because they took a quarterback from an air raid offense, they're limiting his mistakes, and they're super efficient. And they're really showing all their strengths, flexing their muscles right now offensively, which is something I totally forgot Sam Hartman even went there, but now that it's kind of clicked and gelled in my brain, it's not entirely surprising, even with a head coach that was the former DC there. ND looks really good. I'm gonna pick ND to win the game.
Damn. Did not see that out of you.
I know.
That shakes everything up.
Which
Like-
would drop a nuclear bomb on college playoff outlook. Michigan would,
Because then that probably knocks out Ohio State.
especially unless they beat Michigan, that makes the weight of the Michigan game so much more important for the Ohio State. Because normally if they play each other, they're both gonna get in basically no matter what.
Yeah, if they go into that game undefeated, they're both playing.
Unless they play each other twice, which doesn't happen. So because they're not on opposite sides of the Big Ten there. So if ND beats Ohio State, we're talking about ND vaulting into top 4 potential CFP for them, which would be the first time in a
A
long
while.
Have they ever made the CFP?
I think they did that one year.
The first year? I think the second year.
Second year, I think.
One of the early years they made it, but they haven't been. I don't think they've been in this hot of contention, and they haven't played good enough competition for them to really push for that.
But
this Ohio State game could really be the mark to kick off Marcus Freeman's head coaching position and really get this surge of momentum in ND's favor
Yeah.
towards them being in the top 4. And you could see a totally alternate top 4. We could see Texas in for the first time, see ND in for the second time. I mean, Georgia's probably most likely going to get in. They're still really good.
in Michigan.
And Michigan is still really good, and they've been really good without Harbaugh. So,
He's back this week.
He's back this week. Yes, they're playing a bunch of nobodies,
Like,
but
probably like Illinois or something.
yeah, they're favored by like 24.5. So, that game is very pushed aside. But I think the other big game that's not ranked was Florida State Clemson.
Yeah, it's just
Florida
interesting.
State, it's weird. It's so interesting. All these like high level programs coming back into fruition. Texas, Florida State,
Notre Dame.
all these teams that
Back when-
dominated the
back when
early
they-
mid-thousands are back into fruition now.
Back when our childhood, really.
Yeah,
Like those Notre Dame, Florida State games. Oof.
they were evil.
Ooh, Texas, USC. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And you see like a hiatus from each of these teams. I mean, ND's always been competitive, but a hiatus from some of these teams, and especially USC.
Mhm.
And now they're all back into relevancy. It's actually, and you see
Nostalgic as
Bama
hell.
kind of falling out. It's really interesting to watch. Do you have any opinion on the Florida State game?
I just think it's interesting that they're only favored by 2.5. I get they're going into Death Valley, and playing
I
Clemson.
think Clemson's offense is dog crap.
I think Clemson is a very bad football team. I mean, the Duke game alone would tell me that.
Mhm.
I think Florida State wins kind of convincingly. I just do think it is interesting because maybe there's something we just don't know. I nothing about Clemson to me strikes, oh my God.
2.5 underdogs to the number 4 team in the nation.
No. Unless Jordan Travis comes out and lays a goose egg, I don't see a way this game is close, really.
Because I don't think this Clemson defense is as nasty as the past few years, like
No.
when they were competing for national championships, or even the past 2 years when they weren't, when they had ukulele. Because they had guys like Breesy on that line, and their front seven was always nasty, and they had NFL talent kind of flying all over the field defensively, and defensively is where Dabo shines. But they've lost their offensive coordinator, they lost Lawrence, and this program's kind of just hit a stone wall. They've lost as many games in the past 2 years as they did the decade before.
Yeah.
So when they were rocking Watson Lawrence for basically 7 years of college football. So the past couple of years have been really rough for Clemson, and I just don't see how it turns around against the number 4 team in the nation. How they're only 2.5. How is it only 2.5 points?
No idea.
I must be like, is Jordan Travis hurt? Granted, Florida State just is coming off a game they should not have won. Boston College should have won that game.
Yeah.
And they did not look good in that game. So maybe that's why it's only 2.5.
But like it's the first ACC game.
Yeah.
Those are the first conference games are always close.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I don't know.
I think that's it.
I think that is it.
So there you go, guys. Cats preview, Stetson, recap, Cats preview for Weber State. A lot of Colorado talk because they're going to be
They're the hottest thing in the country right now.
They're going to be the hottest talk probably through the USC game, and we'll see what happens between the Oregon matchup and USC. If they have 2 losses, they'll probably fall off the map a little bit as we start heating up the Heisman talk, as we start heating up the CFP talk.
Yep.
But that's to be expected. This is Deion's first year. They're definitely going to prank in a hell of a lot more transfers, and that'll look at the program.
And they're bringing in Warren Sapp next year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So they're getting names up there.
Yeah,
they're
they're
coach.
really bringing in NFL Hall of Famers to coach. So, the program is headed in the absolutely correct direction there in Colorado. But, really interested to see how the Heisman stuff plays out. Really interested to see how the 6 ranked matchups play out.
Big week.
Most since 2005, coming from Stat Encyclopedia Logan. So,
Oh, come on.
yeah, thanks for tuning in. Everything Hurdle Podcast. Hit up our Instagram at HRDL Podcast. Check us out there. We're going to be posting when these episodes drop. So, but if you don't want to follow us there, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Any specific comments you want for this one?
Your prediction for the Montana State Weber State game.
Oh, there you go. Montana State Weber State predictions. And go check us out on Spotify. If you would rather check us out over there, 5-star rating on that. Follow us over there. Hit the notification bell on that if that is your preferred source of media. And yeah, that's gonna do it. Bailey, Logan, we're out, guys. Peace.